Hi everybody. The importance of hand washing has been very well documented. It's one of the most effective ways you can take to prevent yourself from the cold, flu, and the novel coronavirus. And it's the number one step people can take to avoid this COVID 19 disease, besides never coming in contact with it in the first place. Now, there's a surprising story on the origin of hand washing, a one that everybody needs to know. All the credits of hand washing goes to one guy, a Hungarian doctor named Ignaz Semmelweis. The story begins in the time of crisis in Vienna. It's 1844 and we are at the General Hospital in Vienna, which was the largest maternity hospital in the world. Now the hospitals were really different back then. They were very crowded and it was not a surprise to find more than one patient in the same bed, and without doubts the mortality rates were also quite high. And there was one deadly disease known as the childbed fever. This childbed fever was quite dramatic because mothers would be so happy after giving birth, but soon things could go very bad. They would be screaming because of the pain and they died of a horrible death. Coming to this general hospital in Vienna, it was so crowded that they had to split the maternity ward into two clinics. One was handled by the doctors and the other one was handled by the nurses. But the strange thing here was that the rate of death of women in the doctor's clinic was 5 times higher than that in the nurses' clinic. Now, this seemed quite counterintuitive because the doctors were supposed to know more than the nurses. It was a big puzzle. This is where the hero of the plot, Ignaz Semmelweis, comes in. He worked in the doctor's clinic in General Hospital in Vienna. He, like everybody else, wanted to find out what was going on. He sets up some carefully controlled experiment. He discovered that there was a big difference between the two clinics. Women in the doctor's clinic were giving birth on their backs, whereas women in the nurse's clinic were giving birth on their sides. He switches those up so that everybody is giving birth in the same position. But that didn't make any difference. He sets up another experiment which also didn't produce any significant results. But in 1847, he had a breakthrough, which came at a terrible cost. His colleague, a pathologist named Jakub Kolecka, accidentally cut himself with a scalpel that he had been using during the autopsy of one of these unfortunate mothers. He was sickened with a childbed fever and died. Semmelweis believed that doctors were dissecting these infected corpses and immediately rushed to deliver babies without stopping to wash their hands. He suspected that this was the source of the deadly problem. Basically, his hypothesis was that it was the cadaveric material from the scalpel that got into Kolecka's blood and caused the infection. And the same material could be transferred to these women from the hands of the doctors because doctors would be performing autopsies and would go straight to examine the women who had given birth without stopping to wash their hands, change their clothes, or basically taking any hygienic measures. So, to test this hypothesis, he advises everyone who perform autopsies to wash their hands with chlorinated lime, a disinfectant during those times, before attending women in the maternity ward. After instituting this, the mortality rates in the first clinic fell to pretty much that of the second clinic, which was handled by the nurses. So, this in essence is how the hand washing truly began. This simple process of washing your hands with soap and water has saved thousands of lives in the history of. Thank you so much for listening into this. I hope everybody had a great time.